Aspire is an employment charity which also delivers homelessness and housing support services. Since the pandemic started, we've had our homelessness prevention service team working with people who are sort of in very precarious housing, trying to ensure that they can stay in those settings rather than find themselves evicted and falling into already overstretched services. But we also do have a very committed team going into the hotel settings where there's about 150 people, working with the City Council and St Mungo's to see how can we progress from there.
How have the homeless adapted to living in a hotel?
I think it's a very mixed experience, isn't it? I think it's given them the space and the physical comfort relatively, to not have to focus constantly on survival, and hopefully to build relationships and a bit more trust with services. So despite the crisis, this is an opportunity. The focus now, and through a grant award from the Oxford Homeless Movement, is now around how do we support people to progress from the hotel settings? How can we bring online new accommodation options, additional accommodation options? And that's by necessity has to be quite innovative. And this brings on the partnership with Transition by Design.
Probably one of the most relevant things that we're working on at the moment is a 3-year action research project called Homemaker Oxford. And that's really looking at how alternative housing approaches, and what we mean by alternative is community-led, innovative and creative, so perhaps unlocking underused or vacant space, how those sort of new and interesting approaches can be best leveraged, utilised to respond to the current homelessness crisis.
But we've now been able to engage with a landlord who has a number of blocks of empty residential properties in central Oxford, and we'll be taking on the lease. So Aspire will become the landlord of these HMO properties. We'll be working with Transition by Design to bring them up to a standard that enables people to move in and live somewhere as a home and as a place to get dedication, support, care, attention, and to stabilise and move on again. So we're genuinely excited about that opportunity.
I agree. I think that's really exciting. I was thinking the other day about affordable housing. I was thinking, well, what was affordable housing maybe before the virus? Actually, is that going to be affordable housing afterwards? If people lose jobs or income?
I think there will be landlords who will be looking for new tenants in September, October, because their traditional tenants will not be coming back to the city, at least not immediately. So that is a challenge for those landlords, but it's an opportunity as well to revisit perhaps as a group of adults and young people that perhaps they would have overlooked before, that maybe with the right level of reassurance and support, we can help broker new accommodation opportunities with the existing stock that's there.
Of course, the real solution to the crisis that we were facing long before COVID is building more truly affordable housing, and that's as relevant to someone experiencing homelessness as it is someone who's precariously housed or just on a minimum wage job, and really that's the answer, and that's really where we've been failing over the recent years, some would say decades. But there's a turn in the tide on that front. We're seeing the council taking a lead on this. Oxford City Council is doing a fantastic job. It's got a pipeline of 4,000 homes coming over the coming decades, which will be meeting policy. So 40% of those will be social rented, which is truly affordable. But of course, we've got this current crisis. We've got this need now. We've got the people who are very precariously housed, unable to afford the bottom rung of the rental market, and some who've fallen into experiencing homelessness. And that's really where solutions like the project that Paul's talking about comes in. This is what we call move on accommodation, to provide a safety net, but not just provide a bed sit or a shelter, but provide a temporary home where you can get your life back on track, where you can forge links with your neighbours, with your cohabitants, with the local community. Because what we're seeing is many of those who've been caught, thankfully, by the response of putting people into hotels, which, by the way, has demonstrated that Oxford can actually solve homelessness overnight.
Yes.
What we're seeing is there's a real potential for everyone, as you mentioned, to be pushed back on the street when those stays end. But really, the main need of the vast majority of those people is housing. You know, they're not what the sector often calls complex needs. They are low to no needs who really just need to get back with a stable job or a slight increase in income. And that's where move on accommodation can be so key and can be a real catalyst to solving the longer term problem.
The will is there locally, and when you've got a platform like the movement to enable collaboration, then you know, there couldn't have been a better time, at least for Oxfordshire, to respond.